Yeah, hands down my favorite show, production, or gig that I've ever done is Grown and Sexy, and it's just incredible because this big room of everybody comes and celebrates Pride. Queers, allies, straight folks, trans-identified folks, and then the other two local promoters with me are Nadine Dubois and Sweet Pea. Grown and Sexy, the beautiful part is we're DJing it. I got First Avenue nightclub singing Like a Prayer. The entire building. What? Who can do that? You have 1,500 people in front of you and you're just like, hi, I want you to jump. Let's jump, everybody. Everybody starts jumping. Or I'm going to shut the music off. I want you to sing. They're going to sing. But they all went on this beautiful adventure with you. So I'm usually high for a couple weeks off of that, and it's an amazing gig. And it's not corporate. And we get to showcase and experience talent from all over. So we fly people in. We're very selective on the local cast that performs at Grown and Sexy. So for instance, Dykes Do Drag can act as a troupe. They act as a troupe, but we love Dykes Do Drag, so we want them represented in the show.
All right, so
Just to make sure that,
Mary
yeah.
is hungry. There's I brought some donuts and fried chicken.
As one does.
My name is Heather Spear. I am the producer of Dykes Do Drag. We're currently having our 16th anniversary weekend, right in the middle of it right now. So we started doing the show in 1999, and to my knowledge, it's the longest running show of its kind, certainly in the area, and I haven't heard of anything else that has been as consistent for this long, really anywhere. So there are various ways that we like to call the show. It's a performance art queer cabaret. It's got a little burlesque, a little drag. It's got live performance, like live singing as well as lip syncing. There's very often dance pieces in it or video work. That's why I kind of bump it up a little notch to the performance art, in that it's not any kind of traditional drag show you've ever seen, which is funny that we have gotten to a place where we can actually say there is a traditional kind of drag show.
I am the Gentleman King. I am your host tonight. Every night of this little show we've been doing here just for about 15 years, just a minute or two. So Dykes Do Drag is I like to call it a queer performance art cabaret. So you get a little bit of everything. You've got some drag, you've got some burlesque, you've got some performance art, you've just got some fucked up shit going on just to make you think about things in a different way. So that's what we like to try and do here. So I'm glad you're all here experiencing it, though, people who are new and people who have been here before. So
what it's turned out to become over the past 16 years is really very much a community of performers who don't feel like they fit in anywhere else. That then also kind of opens up for an audience that doesn't feel like it is represented anywhere else.
Smooth as a jackknife, your butch can't even fly a kite. My butch sports class from a thrift store, your butch expensive hipster. My butch lift free advisor, your butch backwards sports visor. My butch do me like a bro, your butch just hang out with the bros. My butch has a tongue like velvet, your butch need to wear a helmet.
One of the favorite things that somebody had said about the show that I do is that they spent the whole first half of the show trying to figure out what gender everybody was, and then by the second half of the show they realized it didn't matter and they didn't care. So just performance of masculinity and femininity on stage can definitely be used to break down those assumptions that people carry every day. Where like, okay, you have long hair, so you're a female, and you have short hair, so you're a male. So your ears look like this. You've got Adam's apple. You've got big hands, small hands. And clothes, like those are all the markers that we unconsciously pick up in other people to put them into categories. And when you smish all of that together, whether it's by makeup, by surgery, by just the way you go through your life, it helps to break down those barriers. I never had anybody as a child to teach me how to be a girl. My mother has never She never shaved, she never wore makeup. My sister, who's 4.5 years older than I am, was pretty much gone from the house when I was an adolescent. I didn't really have friends of that variety, so I spent my whole life not wearing makeup, not shaving.
I don't even know where that came from.
And I've never really seen anything wrong with that.
Your brother, your lover, and your little boy.
Yeah. I don't really know who I'm fooling on that one. I am generally saying the glam metal king. It's all wrong, but I'm really fascinated by this song. This daddy, brother, lover, and little boy song. I think I'm gonna sing it for you anyway, but maybe with a song that's a little bit more my style. Maybe the intention will come across anyway. Let's try this. Stay out of your way.
Oh, no, you can film. No, I mean, I'm all done.
One of the great things about living in Minneapolis is that I feel like I can live my life as an out person and nobody does care. You know, my neighbors don't care, my workplaces don't care. Nobody is bothered by my behavior of, you know, holding my girlfriend's hand or kissing her and how we react. It's such a great city, and I think it's why we have so many terrific queer artists, because they are given the room to be able to do the work they want to do. So part of the impetus for creating this piece was I had too many suits that were too big for me that I didn't want to get rid of. So I figured out how to layer them all. This one here was the first suit that I ever got myself. And from the beginning, I've always liked to use the term gender blending. So really bringing together, you know, acknowledging that gender exists on this wide spectrum, and, you know, probably very, very few people are at either end of it, and most people are varying stages in between. And just to be able to represent that and portray that on stage as a way to both kind of have the audience have it broaden their mind as to what gender representation can be, both just in the general culture and also for themselves, and that you don't have to fit into any particular kind of box. You know, for my mind, when people say, but you have, you know, men in there and you have straight women, and to my mind, it's more about dyke for me, or queers, is much more about kind of a social mindset and a way of viewing the world than specifically about who you want to sleep with or who you're attracted to. And that it has, you know, a social consciousness to it, that it has, you know, a feminist and, you know, kind of equality aspect to it. Just it's my ideals, I guess, I suppose, that incorporate into that word. So it's very often surprising when people come to the show and I'm like, well, there's all these other people in it, but I'm like, yeah, they're dykes too.
We've got some straight talk on queer comics tonight. So we've got two fabulous queer comics in the studio with us, Jakey, Emmert, and Sarah McPeck, who are some celebrated, award-winning local comedians. And they are very funny, both on stage and off stage. And so we're honored to have them in the studio. Thank you so much for coming in tonight.
Well, thank you so much for having us. We're super excited. I'm talking about us like we're a married couple, but
Oh, we're so happy to be here.
I'm happy to be
You
here.
look great.
You look great.
I have a face for radio.
You could be married in a sort
I
of
have a body for radio. I have a face
Okay.
for TV.
Okay.
And Sarah, what are some of your comedy heroes?
Definitely Margaret Cho.
Yes.
Love her.
Yes, she's been on our program, not with me.
Really?
Sad to say, Dixie's had her on. It's my bucket list for the show.
Oh, I got to meet her
Yeah.
this summer. And I totally had a moment about it because she is one of my idols. And they say never to meet your idols, and I know why, because you'll screw it up. And it was all I could do to not, like, hand her a direct link to all my comedy and try to shamelessly promote myself and tell her that we are probably best friends. But I didn't do any of that. I talked myself down the whole time. I was like, just be cool, just say hi. And she was very quiet, and I almost felt bad for meeting her because I've never done like a meet and greet with a real celebrity. I did shake her hand, and I decided I would say, you've been such an inspiration to me, because she truly has been an inspiration to me. And then they were ready to take my picture. And at the last minute, I didn't even realize what I was doing, but I put my arm around Margaret Cho, and I don't really realize how strong I am, and kind of pulled her in, which afterwards I was like, oh my God, you totally just invaded her personal boundary space, and she probably just thought you were some crazy white girl coming at her like a golden retriever. And the picture, when she's looking at me, she does look a little frightened. But I got to meet her, and it was amazing. And I sat in the front row that night and was just totally like staring at her the whole time. And I'm sure if I ever meet her again, she will probably remember, you're the creepy girl from Minnesota.
And then run.
And run.
Yeah.
And I'll just chase her.
Is being a queer comedian, is the comedy a part of a way of, I don't know, like a release valve for that, that frustrations and then all of the added stresses that we go through as queer people?
I do, and I think that gay people, we want to be made fun of and laughed at. And I think, you know, you go to a show and with all respect, you see the comedian be like, the difference between men and women, blah, 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 and we can't really relate to that. So if someone's talking about us and making fun of us in a way that's not mean necessarily, they love that. I mean, like I've been to shows where my friends have gone to the straight community, they're like, do more gay jokes. Make fun of us because you feel like you're included.
Yeah, you see yourself reflected on that stage. It's visibility and representation then, yeah. Well, thank you both very much for taking the time to come in, especially when you have a gig coming up in a half hour.
Woo!
So,
Thank
good
you.
luck, break a leg.
Thank you.
But it was a lot of fun. And I stopped myself a couple times from swears. So my mom is probably very happy about that because she says I talk like a trucker, and I do. It's my dad's fault. When it first happened, you can't be afraid. I was like, holy shit. I am urinating on this young lady's face. But she didn't seem to care, so I just kept going and found out that sometimes happens when you're having sex with the right people. It's a little embarrassing. If I were a Barbie doll, I think that the package would say large and lovely, complete with a Coach purse and a water feature. Nothing wrong with that. It doesn't happen every time.
Yeah, whenever.
Hi, I'm Nikolas Martell. I'm a spoken word artist, writer, actor, multimedia performer, and also an events coordinator and curator. I also do videography, work with button poetry, and just generally think arts gets me very excited.
I met Nick at a show at the University of Minnesota where I first met Kevin, and his spoken word always stayed with me.
Yeah, the piece itself is called Transphobia, and it stemmed from an actual experience I had, unfortunately, here in the Twin Cities. And I think in some ways the reason it hit me so hard is because overall the Twin Cities has been such a positive place for me. But I was doing urban fieldwork for a class of mine, and I was in downtown Minneapolis. Football game had just let out. And I looked a little out of place. I wasn't wearing any purple. And I had like my little notebook, and I was just standing on the sidewalk with this like stream of people going past me, and I was taking notes. And I became aware of someone breathing over my shoulder, and I could just smell the alcohol. And that was scary in of itself. They started kind of quizzing me like, what are you doing? And I just was like, oh, it's urban fieldwork, and kept it kind of brief. And then I thought they'd gone away, and then they approached me again behind once more, and started drilling me, and they're like, what are you? Are you a boy or a girl? And that was my first real confrontation with somebody that was a total stranger, and it didn't matter that I was surrounded by people, because there's so many cases of violence against a lot of people, but especially trans people, where there are a lot of witnesses and bystanders and no one does anything. It was jarring. It drove home a lot of the fear that I've been carrying around. And because it stuck with me so much, and because it pulled up all of the fears that I had internalized from stuff that had happened to other people that I heard about, it was something that pretty much inevitably was going to end up in a poem. Pretty much anything major does for me in my life end up in a poem eventually, because it's how I work through things. And I also felt like it was an important story for me to share. Tonight, at my apartment, miles away from that light rail station, I can still feel him dripping down my spine. He demands, "Hey freak, what are you? Boy or girl?" I keep looking out the window expecting to see him, but there is never anything there. This does not mean there is no one there. I walk to the bedroom with my back against the wall because the human field of vision is only 120 degrees. That leaves 240 unseen. How many people have been attacked in their own homes? My room is a crime scene hungry for a victim. My bed is a burial plot. I struggle to breathe beneath the sheets, and the threat of him curls itself tightly into the small of my back. Fear of the dark has become my bedtime ritual, like brushing my teeth or washing my face. Lock the door, slip the deadbolt, check twice beneath the bed, watch the minutes drag by on the clock. Nighttime is where we set our crime shows. It is a place too easily associated with fear. How terrifying then when we realize the worst monsters walk just as freely in the daytime, call sunshine their playground. To the man who demanded, "Boy or girl?" Your anger is only as strong as the fear you built it with. I imagine you do not sleep well at night, that when your eyelids drift shut, you see me dripping through your keyholes, slipping in beneath your doors, stealing through every window in your house. I am your creaking floorboards, the shadows folded into your curtains, the draft of air across your cheek, and you will tie your sheets into knots, trying to toss me from your bed. I will stay here all night. I have nowhere else to go. We are only humans, invading each other's dreams, trying to reconcile our fears. So I can say this and mean it. I forgive you.
How do you feel reading that now?
It's always interesting for me reading or revisiting poems that I wrote a while back. And the thing too, the original draft of this did not have the apology in it, because that's not a place I was at. And then it got to a place where it was, and I think for that reason, like, it's still something I relate to, but it's much more distant, because I was such a different person when that happened to me, and I would have a whole different level of confidence and appreciation for how I'd want to handle a situation like that were it to happen again. And I think there's definitely the part of me that doesn't put up with other people and their nonsense. But I also have been able to approach ignorance and hatred with a lot more compassion than I used to be able to, and to realize that that hostility and that ignorance is about them.
I also identify as trans, and I use he, him, his pronouns, but I was designated female at birth. And in this space, we ask that you respect people's pronouns that they use, as well as other identities that are expressed in the space. That respect goes a huge ways into creating what we like to call here at Outspoken, safer space.
Outspoken is a queer open mic and cabaret show. The basis of the show is to celebrate and empower queer identities, and where any medium goes, we encourage people to experiment in different mediums they haven't done before. We also welcome any and all identities, including allies in the audience as well as on our stage. We also do like little skits throughout. We have jillion costume changes, like I show up at the show with suitcases for this show.
At this point, we're gonna do something a little interactive, yeah?
Yeah.
That was oddly Minnesotan for me. I don't know where that came from.
The winter's getting
I'm
you.
losing it. Not because I'm going Minnesotan, I was losing the accent. So this is like my super last stand against winter outfit. I'm gonna just like go out that door and be like, winter, bring it.
And we definitely bill it as a safer space, which is a space that is safe but also real. We want to acknowledge that because we don't censor the stage, things can be said that are difficult, hurtful, but we believe in a space that works through that together. So it's been a lot of experimentation with that. But it's been really rewarding being able to do that. And Paul and I just really felt when we started it, and we still feel, that there's a need for it, and a need for that expression and that space to be owned by queer people. And I also feel really grateful. We run out of the Fox Egg Gallery, which is at 38th in Chicago, and Kate Bailey runs that and is a fabulous human being, has opened her space and gallery to so many different shows. It's just out of generosity, and it's an incredible space that just has a certain energy to it. And it's been a great home for the show.
Put